So in the sprint planning, usually occurs at the beginning of a sprint. So for our purposes, we're going to assume that our sprint is 1 week long. So this whole process from here to here is going to be 1 week long, okay? So at the beginning of the week, we have our sprint planning meeting. The entire development team is involved here. That includes developers, QA, and product owner, and maybe some other individuals if you desire, but that's usually the best. And with those individuals, we're going to review our product backlog. We're going to put items into the sprint backlog, and then we're going to commit to the sprint. And all of those things need to happen at the beginning of every single sprint, and you need the product owner there to help you decide different priority features. And it's going to be a long process where you and your team sit for an hour or two and figure out everything that you're going to work on for the next sprint. So if we pretend that we are meeting right now at the beginning of the week with our team and we are deciding which of these items we want to implement first, well, the product owner says, hey, I really would like to implement the login first so that people can start logging into our website. And we say, okay, great, we can implement the login for you. And with the knowledge that we have as of today, with all of the possible requirements that exist as of today, we think that implementing the login for you is going to take 2 sprints. Probably a sprint for development, and well, we can do it in 2 parts actually. We can do this in 2 parts. In the first sprint of 1 week, we can implement you the page. The page where you're actually going to go log in, right, is going to have a username, a password, and you're going to be able to click and go inside wherever you're going. And in the next sprint, we're going to be able to implement the login functionality. Now, the reason why it's split up this way is because by definition, at the end of each sprint, you need to have a potentially shippable product. Now, a lot of individuals here tend to argue that it's impossible to have a potentially shippable product all the time. I completely disagree. I think those individuals that can't create a potentially shippable product in a week, maybe a week is too short. Let's say 2 weeks minimum. If they can't create a potentially shippable product in 2 weeks, then they're doing something wrong, because you always have the potential to release something to production. So in this page, in this case, we are just going to have a page with a fields of username, password, and login. Let's take a look at that. So for example, if I go here to our automation practice page where you can practice real automation testing scenarios with different kinds of functionalities, and then I click here, it's going to take me to the login page. Let's say we have a screenshot of this, or a requirements document that shows us how this needs to look, which needs to look exactly like this. And then we want to come in here, put in a username, a password, and click the login button. Okay, so that's going to be our first thing. And then the next thing, we're actually going to implement authorization and authentication here to make sure that everything is working correctly. That's going to be in the next sprint. So what happened here now is we have a sprint backlog. This is a backlog of items that we can pull into our sprint, which are much smaller than these product backlogs items. And so actually here we can put one sprint, one sprint.